Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. Hey friend, welcome back to Alive and Well. Today's episode is a little different. I'm getting personal with you guys. I want to share my story. I don't talk about it all that often, but I think it's a story that I probably wish someone would have told me years ago, back when I had no idea how burnt out I was. I thought I was just overwhelmed. I thought I needed more sleep, which was probably true. I thought maybe I just wasn't trying hard enough, but in hindsight, I can see now that my body was screaming for help. And I want to just tell you a little bit about that version of me because I know I hear from you guys and I know that so many of you are her right now, right? And at that time, it was just wild when I think back. Like I really had all of the things I had been praying for, right? I had a growing family. I had 2 babies that were born 16 months apart. I had a successful career. I was now running my own law practice, and I was negotiating settlements of big cases and managing depositions and meeting deadlines. And I had the house and the schedule and, just the whole checklist of what a quote unquote good life looks like. And I was grateful. Don't get me wrong. I was really deeply grateful. I still am. But I remember in that season, cognitively, I knew I was grateful, but I couldn't actually feel any of it. I couldn't feel how good it actually was. And I remember just walking through my days almost like I was in a fog, right? I was smiling when I needed to and showing up and holding it all together. But on the inside, it really just felt like I was going through the motions if I wasn't unraveling. And I didn't know at the time, but I was running hard on my personality pattern, which is the rigid pattern. And if you guys haven't taken my personality pattern quiz yet, this is what it's based on. But you can go to michellegrosser.com/quiz and you can take it and find out your personality pattern. But for me, I tend to run the rigid pattern, and it's a nervous system adaptation, and it's helped me survive and get through life by doing things right. I was the high achiever. I was the perfectionist. I was the one who could be counted on to show up and push through and meet the standard, even when it was just ridiculous, right? Even postpartum, I had a 3-week-old baby, and I remember being back in the office and nursing between depositions and client calls, and I had no idea how deep I was in a state of survival, right? I thought I was just ambitious and driven and disciplined, but the truth is that I was actually over functioning to avoid feeling everything that was going on beneath the surface. And at this point, I had my 2 girls. I had them what felt like back to back. But before that, I had gone through a series of pregnancy losses. And then after my second, right at the beginning of the pandemic, I also had a ruptured ectopic pregnancy that, it should have taken my life. And I didn't know how to grieve any of that, right? I didn't even realize how deeply my body had been impacted by those experiences. So I did what I knew and what I had always done, and I just kept it going, right? I just kept moving, because slowing down to actually process or grieve or feel any of this felt really unsafe. And my coping mechanisms, probably like a lot of you guys, but the coping mechanisms I used for this stress and this pain, frankly, were like things that felt like a badge of honor in some sense. Like I think they're things that society and culture really values and gives you like an atta girl for, right? Like I never needed help. I stayed busy, so I didn't have to feel any of these things. I was saying yes to everything so that I was dependable and I didn't risk disappointing anyone. And I was just pushing through even when I was done. Like I was just so exhausted. And I thought that these things, just like all of our personality patterns, right? So easy to think that these things are just how we are, right? This is just my personality trait, but they're not. And now what I learned and what I see clearly now is that those were actually trauma responses, right? Those were coping strategies that were keeping me safe until they didn't, right? Those only work until they don't. And I'll never forget when my body really just said enough. Like it was actually at night. I was nursing the baby. It was like 3 a.m. I remember I was just sitting in this like glider rocking chair that I had in my living room at that time. Middle of the night, it's dark, just me and the baby. And I was just like so tired and depleted. I could barely keep my eyes open. I could barely sit upright. Everyone else was asleep. The house was dark and quiet. And I just broke. Like I just lost it. And I was sobbing and shaking, and my whole body was probably releasing years of stress and pressure I didn't even know I was holding. And it just felt like something inside me snapped in that way. Not like in a dramatic way, but more in a like final straw kind of way. Like my body was just saying like, we can't keep doing this. And what hit me the hardest, I think in that moment, was really the guilt, like this sense of guilt that came over me, because I was literally sitting in everything I had once prayed for. And maybe you've had moments like this too. Like you're like, I know how precious it is that my kids are home and they're safe and I'm making dinner and I get to feed them and, you know, we're all together, but man, like it's hard to enjoy it right now. And for me, that night was a turning point. And maybe you've had moments like this too. Maybe it's even what's brought you to this podcast or my work or joining one of my group programs. It was just a turning point for me. And it was not because I had this big like revelation or breakthrough, but it's because I was starting to become aware of the cost, right? Like I couldn't keep going on like this. I couldn't keep pretending like this. And the cracks had been there for a while, right? But I just didn't pay attention, or I was ignoring them, or I was in denial, or whatever it was. But like the cracks were there, like the chronic fatigue that just wasn't going away, no matter how much sleep I was getting, the brain fog, right? Like simple things were feeling really hard for me to accomplish and get done. I was struggling with insomnia. I was feeling anxiety. I had all these gut issues, irritability, like emotional volatility, all these things. And I was just feeling like I was living so much of my life outside myself. And maybe you felt that way too. Like it's almost like I was on the outside looking in, like I was watching my life happen, watching this girl show up as a mom and a wife and in the business sphere, and watching my life happen, but not really living it. And I remember that I kept telling myself, like, this is a season and it's going to get better, right? This week is like crazy. I look at my calendar and I'm like, holy moly, but like next week it's going to get better. And I kept telling myself that, except that it didn't. And it wasn't. Like the next week was just as crazy as the week before, and was just as full and just as packed, and I was just as busy, and it was a mountain with no peak. And I think once I had that moment where my body just broke and I admitted that something really had to change, I did what I thought was the right thing to do in that moment. And maybe you've been here too. But I doubled down on like the mindset work. So I'm like, all right, I got to get my mind right. Like this is, there's a problem here and I need to journal more, or I need to, stay more positive, or I need a new gratitude practice, or I need to really fix like my routines and my habits, or, my to-do list just isn't efficient. I need to figure out a better way to do this. And I stayed in my head, and then nothing changed, right? Nothing changed how I actually felt in my body, because even though I was trying all these top-down things, I still felt like I was just always bracing. I still woke up on edge, and all day long I felt like I was running behind and everything was urgent and I couldn't catch up and there was too much to do and there wasn't enough time and there wasn't enough help. And I was just like, I couldn't exhale, right? No amount of insight, i.e. journaling and reflection and what have you, could actually reach the part of me that needed to be reached, right? The part of me, the part of my nervous system that still felt unsafe and that was driving all of this. And that was the missing piece. I wasn't dealing with a mindset problem. And for so many of us who have been through seasons like this, we're probably not dealing with a mindset problem. Or if there are areas in our mindset that we could shift to serve us better, that's not where we need to start. That's not the root of the problem. That's not the cause of what we're experiencing. I was dealing with a nervous system problem. And that's actually what helped, right? That's what started to shift things for me, was when I learned about somatic work. That was something 6-7 years ago that I had never even heard of. But when I started working with my own coach and becoming certified myself, like these things I was learning, these tools, these simple body-based practices helped me learn how to send new signals to my nervous system. So instead of constantly sending signals that were like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do today. There's not enough time. I'm never going to get this done. I feel so overwhelmed. Nobody wants to help me. Nobody cares, right? Nobody sees how much I'm doing. Whatever it was, I needed to send new signals to my nervous system. Signals of safety, right? Signals that it was okay for my body to like exhale and release and soften. Signals that I had this like home base, this core within myself that I could come back to. And I really began to understand that what I had been calling overwhelm for so long, right? I always felt overwhelmed, was actually a nervous system state, right? It's actually this survival stress in my body that had never completed its cycle. So it wasn't that I wasn't cut out for it. It wasn't that I was lazy or unmotivated or undisciplined or needed a better plan or system. It's that I was dysregulated. And that's when I developed, over the last few years, this return framework that I'm now using and teaching. Return, 6 letters, stands for 6 different parts of the framework. And it's a process that helps us move out of dysregulation and a place of burnout and being stuck in survival stress and coming back, returning, right, to true regulation. And the very first step, the first phase of return, that first R, is for releasing survival stress. Because the truth is that we cannot heal, we cannot experience healing and change and growth and peace and transformation and patience and joy and all of these things that we want to experience. We can't heal when we're still bracing, right? We can't heal when we're still anticipating things to be overwhelming or hard or painful or what have you. And the first time I did some of these body-based practices and actually felt my breath like land, I got really emotional. And it's not because I was sad, but it's because I just realized like how far I had been from this place of like true rest and true just like comfort in my own body, right? From how far from safety I'd actually been living. I remember, sitting with my coach 6-7 years ago and being like, I don't even think I can take a deep breath. Like my chest feels so tight. Like it feels like there's a cinder block like on my chest. Like I don't even think I can take a deep, full breath. And it's true. I was just living with so much tension, literally and metaphorically. And then when I started to do this work, this body-based work, like from that place, you guys, it was wild because everything else started to shift, right? The mental symptoms, the emotional symptoms, the physical symptoms I was experiencing started to shift. Not overnight, right? This isn't like a magic pill, not perfectly. So much of this work is messy, right? Healing is messy, but it was consistent. And consistently, little by little, my sleep improved and my patience returned, right? My body began to heal. My gut issues began to heal. The migraines went away. All the joint and muscle aches and tension started to dissipate. And I really felt present again. And I started to feel alive again. And that bubbly joy started to come up for me again. And I started to feel like I was actually living my life and not just going through the motions. And I wasn't even just living it. I was actually enjoying it. Right? Like I could finally enjoy this life and not just show up through the motions and perform. And I don't know if any of this feels familiar for you guys, if any of my story resonates. But if it does, like I just want this to be such an encouragement for you, because if you're where I was postpartum 7-8 years ago, in a season where there's just a lot going on and you've been experiencing chronic stress for as long as you can remember, and there's health things going on, or there's financial things going on, or there's relational things going on, or there's stuff that needs attention from things you've experienced in the past or how you were raised or what have you. Like, you're not broken. You're not ungrateful. You're not unmotivated. You're not even doing it wrong per se. You're just burnt out in a way that requires more than mindset. That's where I was, right? I was burnt out in a way that required more than, journaling and taking a bath. And ultimately it's led me through, 6-7 years of this work now and doing and teaching this full time. And I want to give you guys a taste of that first R in the return framework of releasing that survival stress. So that's exactly what we're going to do together in the workshop that's coming up on Tuesday, August 26th. It's called From On Edge to At Ease. And I want to walk you guys through the somatic tools that helped me shift, right? This is what I teach inside of my signature program, Burnout Recovery Blueprint. But I don't want to just give you information. I want to give you some information, but I also want you to actually start to experience this shift, right? Start to experience what it feels like for your body to feel safe and like be able to release and soften, maybe for the first time in years. Because if you're listening to the show and you feel like you're holding it all together, while it feels like everything around you, or maybe everything within you too, is quietly falling apart, or you can relate to me in the seasons of my life where I feel like, oh my gosh, like this is so good, but I feel like I can't be here for it. Like I can't even enjoy it. Or you just feel like you're tired of pushing through, right? Like every day is such a grind and you wake up exhausted. This is for you. So we're going to go through an experience together. I'm going to guide you through it. You're going to try some of these practices with me in real time. There's so much more to this framework, right? The whole return framework, but I want to start from the beginning, right? Bringing safety to your body. And I want you to get a taste of what that feels like. And then these are tools you'll learn at this workshop that you guys can put into practice from Tuesday forward, right? Once you learn them, you have them in your toolbox and you can use them and you can teach them to the people that you love and your kids when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or what have you. So come join me. I'm teaching it live on Zoom Tuesday, August 26th. You can register at the link in the show notes, or you can just go to michellegrosser.com/workshop. I would love to see you there. I would love to share this work with you. It's had such an impact on me, and I'm believing it'll do the same for you. And I really want you to give your body this chance to exhale and be present. All right, my friends, I love y'all so much. I'll see you at the From On Edge to At Ease workshop. Take care.